Okay. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to the Expanding Boundaries International Podcast. I am your host, Emily Gracula, and I'm here with Kaoutar Benchouk from Morocco, a Fulbright alumnus. She was a foreign language teaching assistant and an Arabic teacher at Sam Houston State University in Texas, which is actually how we met because she taught me Arabic at Sam Houston. And now she is here today with us to talk about the Fulbright program and how she got involved with studying/working abroad. So, Kaoutar, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Good morning, Emily. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be with you here today and discuss my Fulbright experience in the States. As Emily introduced me, my name is Kaoutar Benchouk, and I'm a Fulbright a Fulbright alumnus. And I have been a Fulbright FLTA, this stands for Foreign Language Teaching Assistant, and an Arabic teacher at Sam Houston State University. The Fulbright exchange program was a great opportunity for me to have an international teaching experience. So, my first time to be overseas was in the States. I decided to apply to the Fulbright program when I was a student in master's degree here in Morocco. I was doing a master's program in translation. And how I got to know to the Fulbright program was by a Fulbright alumnus who was my classmate. So he was a Fulbright FLTA at Brown University, and we had a project to do together, a group project in the class. So we talked about the Fulbright program, and he asked me if I'm ever interested in having a culture exchange abroad or a work experience overseas. And I expressed my excitement if any opportunity of this kind may arise in the future. I would definitely apply and embrace it.
So
So
you had
this
never
was how,
studied abroad. Sorry. You had never studied abroad at all. This was the first overseas experience for you.
yes, exactly.
Cool. Okay.
I thought that after I finished my master's degree, I would apply to the Fulbright program. So by the time I graduated, I went to the States right away. But the process was very competitive. It was a lengthy process. It lasted for, let's say, almost a year. It lasted almost a year. There was a really long application form that required writing essays about reasons for applying to the FLTA, your teaching methodologies and techniques, and how you'll be a cultural ambassador of your country and how you will represent your country in the States. Also, you should have some prior teaching experience before, and you should have a certain score in one of the English language proficiency tests, such as the TOEFL or IELTS, among other requirements. And then after your application gets selected, you go sit for an interview with a committee of professionals. Here in Morocco, we have the Fulbright Commission that is in charge of interviewing the Fulbrighters, candidates or applicants. They ask you various questions about your previous work experience, about the reasons why you applied again. So you have to show your interest and how excited you are about this opportunity. A lot of cultural questions, linguistic questions, and after that, after you've been selected, then you have to go through another interview with the dean of the American University in Cairo. So this was the last interview to have, and then you have to go past the TOEFL exam, and you should score a certain amount so that you pass this stage of selections. Yeah, so after that, I was selected to teach in 5 universities in the state. One in Ohio, another one in New York, another one in Illinois, another one in Pennsylvania, and in Texas. So I chose Sam Houston State University because it's situated in Texas. First of all, because because of the warm weather that is similar to where I come from.
That's
I'm much
true.
comfortable in warm weather.
It is
And
cold in New
second,
York and Pennsylvania.
yeah, I know. um, yeah, And then the second reason is that I was going to take classes in the doctoral program, that is the program of literacy. And of course, I did my research about the reputation of the department. So I found out that they have a very good reputation of their education department. So this is why I chose St. Houston. So I was taking classes, one with the undergrad, that was my choice, and the other one that was specified by my supervisor that I was going to take doctoral classes in literacy. So yeah, it was a great experience. It was very fulfilling. The funding, I mean, the Fulbright, they provided everything. Let's say literally everything. The Fulbright, or the IIE, that is the Institute of International Education, they arrange academic placement for Fulbright nominees and supervise their stay in the state. Of course, they do administer everything from paying taxes, payroll, and everything. You don't have to worry about these things. You just focus on your teaching, on your duties that you're going to implement in your host institution.
So was this your first time getting a passport? Did you have to go apply for that before you left? Did you have to? I mean, it's a very long process. I actually am trying to study abroad in Paris with the Fulbright scholarship in 2022. So I'm starting to go through the process. And there's a lot of things that you have to do in order to, I mean, it is really a year-long process that you have to apply and write the essays. And when you
Yeah.
did your language, you had to get you had a language test, right? You said an English language test.
Yes. Yes. I took the TOEFL test.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're doing the Fulbright, it depends on whatever country you're going to. You were going to the States, so you took an English test, because I have to take a French one if I wanted to study abroad in Paris. But you definitely have to have a limited proficiency in the language of the country that you want to go to. So you can't just go and you can't go not knowing anything, correct?
Exactly. It is very helpful to learn, to have at least basic knowledge about their language. And second, to conduct a research about the country you're going to, the regions, each region of each country, especially the region you're going to and your host institution. You need to learn a lot of information about the place you're going to so that you are, let's say, you will be prepared. You'll be more prepared to adjust to all the differences you may encounter. So this is my advice to everyone who's planning to go work abroad or study abroad. For me, as I said, I conducted research. I learned about what is the climate like in each season in Texas. So it was perfectly great for me since it's warm, and I feel much comfortable in that type of weather. And also, when I received the terms of appointment and special instructions contract with Sam Houston, it included various information about the university, the town environment, the student body population. Of course, the area is the urban or rural, but sometimes you really need to conduct a research, as I said. For example, the definition of urban in the States is a lot different from here. So, let me give you a concrete example.
Mm-hmm.
The means of transportation in Huntsville, it mentioned carpool, and I was like, yeah, that all right, that's okay. But I really expected there will be much availability of public transportation. So I expected skyscrapers, trains, subways, and at least an airport. But this wasn't the case. When I went there, I mean, I was glad that I met incredible people who helped me adjust, who made my life a lot easier. But sometimes I had to ask colleagues and friends car rides to the airport when I had conferences to go to or trips during winter break or spring break. And it made me feel a little uncomfortable asking uh, because I could find Uber from Houston, from airport of Houston to Huntsville. But to go from Huntsville to the airport, I could not find Uber various times. So I had to ask people and let them know in advance. Sometimes I let them know a month prior of my trip so that I can arrange everything beforehand.
That's nice of them though to help you out. And yeah, Huntsville does not have public transportation at all. It is not a city for public transportation. Even Houston, it has a little bit, but it's an hour away from Houston, so it's pointless.
Yeah, I mean, I did everything I could to adjust to the cultural shock first. It first started with my supervisor who took care of finding rent and the lease procedure. And then when I was finally settled in, I joined activities in campus. I was invited to the church various times with friends. I attended Bible study. In return, I did organize many activities in the language club. I invited students to participate in the workshops I organized, cooking classes, presentations, yeah, and various activities that really helped me expand my network, my social network, and know a lot of people, including professors, um, sure, faculty members, and students.
Did you spend 1 year or 2 years at Sam Houston?
I spent 10 months.
10 months. So 1 year. Okay. Because I know sometimes they'll allow you to renew it for a second year, but that's depending. I'm looking at the master's program in the Fulbright, so that's what the options are. I don't know what they are for work abroad.
Yeah, so the Fulbright program provides various scholarships. So in my case, it was the FLTA, Foreign Language Teaching Assistant, but they provide scholarships for master's students who want to pursue a master's degree, or for doctoral students who want to have joint supervision of their research. So they have a professor from a university, from an American university, to advise them regarding their research. Yeah, and they also fund, I think, postdoctoral study. That's what I know. Yeah, as far as I know, they do fund postdoctoral research and study.
They do quite a bit, yeah. So what would you say was the most difficult part of acclimating or maybe coming back home and no longer being in America? What was the most difficult part of everything for you?
I found it great that here there is more availability of public transportation in Morocco. So people don't, they really do not have to drive because public transportation is available. But of course, I had a reverse cultural shock that lasted really long, almost a year. Yeah, I mean, for example, here, the bureaucracy um, that really makes people go through time-consuming and cumbersome procedures and regulations. For example, if you want to apply to, let's say, a program in a university or a degree, so they do not, there is, the use of emails is very uncommon, so no one
Mm.
is going to reply to your emails. Of course, digital copies of degrees and diplomas, they're not recognized. So it takes a lot of time printing and authenticating copies, and we have to go submit them in person. But when I was applying for the Fulbright program, it was all via email, so it was a lot easier. So these kind of things were sometimes irritating me.
Did they recognize the Fulbright program? Everything that you had gotten working abroad? Did they recognize that certificate that you got at the end, or was it more difficult for them?
Yes, they do. Most people here they do recognize the Fulbright program, especially in EFL teaching when you want to teach English as a foreign language. So in this domain, people, most of them, they do recognize the Fulbright program, and of course, it is considered an international teaching experience that is an added value to my resume and to my work experience. And of course it helped me to get a job opportunity much faster than other friends or other people I know.
They do say Expanding Boundaries International is actually a nonprofit that helps students study abroad or work abroad or intern abroad. And they focus on doing this because it is proven that when you study abroad, you are more likely to get a job offer or a form of career advancement later on because you did study abroad. So that is very true, and that's nice that you got all the benefits from it and it helped you out and everything in advance. What are you doing now, actually, after
Yeah,
being back in Morocco?
yeah. Just to add one more thing is that one of the I mentioned the good things and the bad things. Sometimes here it's very difficult to find an educational institution where you can implement all the new teaching techniques that you learned in the States. Most of educational institutions here prefer their comfort zone and they give less freedom to the teachers for innovation. So this was one of the negative things, but it was good that me in another cohort of Fulbrighters could find opportunities much faster than any other candidates. What was the question you asked?
Sorry.
What am I doing
No,
now?
good.
Sure. In fact, I am teaching online. So I have Chinese students and Vietnamese students. So I've been doing online teaching since last April. Because of the pandemic, we could not do in-person classes. So I've been doing only online teaching. And meanwhile, I've been preparing for PhD applications. So now I'm applying for PhD programs in the US. So I did take the GRE exam and the test of TOEFL. And here the testing centers were closed because of the pandemic, of course. So luckily, the ETS, the testing providers, they did decide that they will provide test takers an opportunity of at-home testing. So I took
Oh,
that opportunity and yeah, passed both tests.
well, good job, and congratulations on starting your PhD and everything. That will be amazing once
Thank
you do
you.
get started.
Thank you very much. It took a lot of patience and a lot of perseverance. Many times I wanted to sit for my exam and technical issues happened. So I had to reschedule my exam for like 3 to 4 times. It was a
Wow.
little stressful, but I had to keep a high spirit.
Yeah, and you went through it, so that's good. What would you say was probably the easiest part of working abroad and then the most difficult part of working abroad?
Yeah. Um, in fact, and honestly, my job working abroad was, for me, I considered it as a vacation because I really enjoyed my time there.
Oh,
Of course, as I said, the the IIE and the Fulbright Commission took care of everything, including the funding, so we did not have to worry about financing our stay or our studies or paying rent. So it was all provided. They did send a series of documents, including various information about our host institution, the pre-departure orientation, the hotel information, flight tickets, everything that we needed to know, tips on how to handle cultural shock and homesickness. So I was really pleased to receive such documents and read them. They were very helpful. They helped me learn more how to expand my social network, how to make friends, the social proximities between people, how to approach people, all the cultural differences that I should take into consideration before building a friendship with the American people. So yeah, it really made our stay in the U.S. very easy. Um, the challenging part, I don't believe, and I don't remember there was a challenging part. I used to consult my supervisor before I go to class. I show her my lesson plans, and She gives me tips and she shows me what needs to be deleted, what needs to be kept, what needs to be improved before I enter the class and teach my lessons. So it was very helpful, very informative. I've learned a lot. I learned a lot about the post-secondary education in the US, how universities and colleges operate in the States, cultural responsiveness in the States, and inclusion in social justice in all educational institutions and in the education system in general in America. It was very, very inspiring, very fascinating to me. And it was one of the reasons, and it was a catalyst for me to apply for the PhD program. I found that the student affairs was very appealing to me. They provide a student support, they provide academic advising, they provide supporting, um, they provide consultants and everything the student might need. So here, the student affairs is much more limited to, let's say, issuing transcripts and handling paperwork of students who want to transfer from a university to another, and I think that's pretty much it. So I really hope that after I finish my doctoral program, I can bring that broad concept of student affairs here to my home country.
Wow. Do you plan on using the Fulbright to do the doctoral studies, or are you doing it in Morocco?
Well, as I said, I am applying to American universities,
Okay.
but it will be at my own expense. I'm not applying through the Fulbright. Um, but of course, I'm applying to obtain an assistantship. So
Do you
for
know
me,
where you want to start?
so the assistantship will be very essential to me so that I can be able, so I can be, yeah, able to pay tuition and just take care of my living expenses in the US.
Do you know where you might want to go yet?
Yeah, I have applied to universities in Ohio and in Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow, Pennsylvania. Very cold up there. I used to live there. It's cold.
Yeah, I know, but I did apply because I found their programs really correspond to what I really want to do and to my career objectives in the future. So I think that I'm a good fit to their program. And what are they offering is what I'm really looking for. So this is why I applied to these two states.
It'll be good to see something different, to travel again, and to keep pursuing your education in what you obviously love and enjoy doing. So that's good. Do you have any advice for anyone, perhaps either looking at the Fulbright or just looking to study abroad in general, or work abroad, or intern abroad, or teach abroad? How maybe advice to like how to get started or motivate yourself through the entire year-long process that it takes sometimes for these programs, or anything that you may think of?
Yeah, sure. First of all, do not give up on your dream because there will be moments of frustration. There will be moments where you fail frequently and you have to repeat it and do it again over and over again. Do not wait to succeed to have motivation. No, motivation comes along with the work that you're constantly doing, the efforts you're investing into what you're doing, into your applications and your job interviews or your admission interviews. This is the first thing. The second thing is when you go to a foreign country, do embrace the cultural difference and the diversity. Do not just observe what's very different from your culture or the only negative aspects of that culture. Otherwise, you'll fall into a negative cycle of thoughts and you'll feel very homesick. No, try to embrace it all with the good and bad. Learn from the people there, listen to people advice. It would be very helpful for you to enjoy your life there and you enjoy your experience in that foreign country.
Very good advice. I love that. I love the motivation as well because people always think that you have to be motivated in order to do something. But no, sometimes you have to force yourself to be motivated in order to do it. You can't just be motivated after the fact or because you're so happy that you finally did it. You've got to motivate yourself before. And it's a long process. Studying abroad is not an easy task. That's why so few people do it, I think, because it's just very long process and it's time consuming and requires a lot of paperwork.
Exactly. And one more thing is that networking. Try to get to know the people whenever you're invited to such an activity or a lecture, go attend it, discuss with people, talk to them, approach them, try to make friendships. Networking is very helpful. You know, networking can get you a job faster than your degree can. And
Mm.
I'm speaking from my own example. When I returned to my home country, Morocco, and after I Fulbright program. I was applying to jobs in summer, but the job that I got was a recommendation from another Fulbright colleague of mine. So she learned about the job opening, and she sent me the job offer, and I applied to it, and I was accepted, and I had wonderful time working as an EFL teacher in Casablanca.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome. It's very true. Networking will get you there. Everyone
Yeah,
what
and it
I've
provides
learned recently,
in
yeah.
a support community of professors, teachers, colleagues, scholars, researchers. They provide a strong support system for you trying to enter the job market or to start a degree in a major that you've never studied before. For example, in my case, I've studied translation in my master's program and I've studied linguistics in the undergrad school. So for me, applying now to, let's say, teaching and learning or curriculum and instruction or higher education administration or educational leadership, so I've never had a degree in these fields, you know, but
Yeah.
I met many people who influenced me, many people that I've learned from, professors in the Department of Education in Huntsville and Sam Houston. I've learned a lot from them and I got inspired to apply to these specialties.
That's amazing. You learn so much when you study abroad, I think, and your mind or work abroad. Sorry, I keep saying study.
Yes,
But your
yes,
mind truly opens up into seeing new possibilities and new experiences that you can make for yourself and make in your life.
yes, of course, it does broaden your horizons. After I was back to Morocco, right after I finished my program in the US, I was offered other overseas work or job offers. Many of them were in China, one of them was in France, but I decided to stay home because I was supposed to benefit my country from my international teaching experience, not to go abroad right away. So I decided to stay in Morocco, work in Morocco for a little while, accumulate more work experience like domestically here in Morocco so that I can immerse in the profession, in the teaching profession here in Morocco. Yeah, and it was very fulfilling. I've learned really a lot. I've become very knowledgeable of the educational system here in Morocco and in the US, the differences, the similarities. Um, and of course, I learned to appreciate what I've been taking for granted. For example, when I started teaching Arabic in St. Houston, gradually I started appreciating a lot of things about the language, about my culture, about my heritage, about our history, and things that I really did not care about. They're just here. We're just taking them for granted. But when you speak about that to your students or to your audience, you really don't realize that you're speaking with passion about what is yours, what is your heritage, your culture, your history, your experience, your surroundings, the area you come from. Um, so people really, you do influence people, and you learn to appreciate what you've been taken for granted.
That is very interesting because it must have been interesting to see your students who knew nothing about Arab countries, and then to learn all about the language and the culture and have their eyes opened for the first time to things that you had seen your entire life and you've known your entire life. So that, yeah, definitely puts a different perspective on things.
Yeah, sure. I've been really happy. Like I was ecstatic by the end of the first semester in the US because I was teaching beginner students and they had literally no idea about Arabic. No, they don't know not a single word, nothing. And we
Mhm.
started from scratch. And by the end of the semester, they were able to introduce themselves, to talk about their family, to talk about their hobbies, to talk about their schooling major, to talk about their future career goals in Arabic. I was wowed. I was like, wow, I did it. All that effort finally paid off. I was very happy in the first semester that I could observe the change that I've made. And one more thing is that other students they really decided to go to Morocco and study Arabic. I was very pleased to learn that they decided to go to Morocco and learn more about the culture associated with the language. Because when I was there, of course, they had the opportunity to interact with a native Arabic speaker, that is me, and I invited other native speakers as hosts or as guest speakers in my classes and to the language club. But again, to live in the country and live have your life there, all the aspects of your life. You meet new people, you see new areas, you see new things. You learn, you really learn. It's fascinating, really. That's why I do appreciate the diversity in the US. Morocco is diverse too. I mean, here we have people from various regions. Each region has its own traditions, its own history. Um, we do have various ethnicities. We have the Moorish Moroccans, we have Jewish Moroccans, we have white people, we have Amazigh people, we have the Arab people. But for me, I find America is much, much, much more diverse than here in Morocco, and it's fascinating. It's actually the power of you, the American people, is your diversity.
Wow. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, America is a bit larger than Morocco, so it's
Of
very
course,
understandable.
Morocco is a small country.
And it's understandable why it might be just a little bit more diverse. But it's, yeah, it is very interesting because as your student and under as Samara's student as well, who was also an Arabic teacher in Sam Houston, I had never thought about I when I took Arabic, I had never thought about like which countries speak Arabic, and I never thought about like the culture or anything like that. So actually going into the class and learning it all, it was very interesting. And then to find out, also my background is in French, to find out that in Morocco they speak both Arabic and French, I was like, what a perfect city for me to go visit and for me to go see eventually. So it's definitely on my top list of cities to visit now. I mean, countries to visit now. I want to see the culture. I want to go there and introduce myself that I can do that now in Arabic, and say hello and see what it really is like over there, because you have piqued my interest in that. So yeah.
Yeah, that would be amazing since now you're learning about French. Here, French is the second language. Almost everybody speaks French, so there will be no linguistic barrier. In the touristic cities such as Marrakesh or Agadir, people speak English. So I don't believe that you'll find any language barrier. So I believe that you'll be able to communicate with people, and people here will be able to communicate well with you.
That would be really amazing. Definitely. Whenever we can travel again, that will be on my list to go.
Yeah, yeah, I love traveling.
Yeah.
It makes you feel alive.
I also thought what you said earlier was very honorable. The way you said you didn't want to travel immediately, you wanted to give back to your country first in order to. And I feel like a lot of people don't always think of it like that. You study abroad or work abroad to come back and give back this different perspective that you've gained and these new teaching ways that you've gained, and you share it with people. You share it with your students and your friends and your family, and then you go to another place and you learn something new and you bring it back for everyone. I never really thought about it like that. You always I guess I thought about it more from a selfish view, like what can I learn from this? Not what can I teach everyone else from this? How can I open their eyes as well? So I thought that was very honorable and interesting that you decided to stay home and give back to your own community and country.
Yes, this is the aim of the Fulbright FLTA program, not the master's program, not the postdoctoral program, not the joint supervision program, the FLTA program. So it is designed to develop and enrich American students' knowledge about foreign cultures and languages, and for the FLTA Fulbrighters to benefit their country from the teaching experience they had overseas in the US. So it's mutual benefits.
That's very good. That's actually part of what EBI stands for as well, is how can you study abroad and then give back? How can we help you open up your eyes? How can you help others open up their eyes? So it is a very good mission to have, I think.
Yes, yes, of course. I've learned a lot. I mean, I cannot mention everything that I learned from my teaching experience in the US, but as I said, there are a lot of things I learned, namely that I learned to appreciate what I've been taking for granted. I learned to value my work and not see it as something that is very common and everybody can do. If I can do it, then I'm doing it my own way. So, for example, if I spend teaching a class for 30 minutes or 50 minutes, it means that it took me years of study and education to do it perfectly in 30 minutes. So, my employer does not owe me for the minutes or the hours. He or she owes me for the years I invested in my education, in my training to do my task properly. And of course, I learned to negotiate terms of appointment in contracts when I am offered other jobs, of course. And since I'm an advocate for equal pay, so I learned how to negotiate and try to set your own terms when you want to work somewhere. Because working abroad, of course, comes with its benefits, but sometimes it comes with its risks. So you have to be knowledgeable and mindful of all the differences in the work environment and in the job market in that country you're going to. Yeah, so these are a few of the things I could mention
Of course,
from my
there's too many.
experience.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with me today and joining us on the EBI Lighthouse podcast. We appreciate having you here and having all of your insight. You definitely seem like a very confident person. I don't know if that's because of working abroad or because of who you are, but I think it might have had a contributing factor. We are very happy to have had you here.
Thank you. Thank you. The pleasure is mine. It was really a pleasure for me to chat with you and see my student again and talk about the Fulbright experience. And I'm really happy to know that you joined the Fulbright and you're going to continue your studies in France. That's a great
Yeah.
opportunity. Go for it, embrace it, and just go for it. Do it. And
Thank
I'm
you
sure
so
you'll
much.
succeed.
Thank you. That's sweet. Okay. Bye, everyone.